Okay, let's start our first project. The main goal in this project is to warm up in Substance Painter and practice all the things that we learned until now, and we are going to learn so many things inside this project. So this is a very simple and easy task to do in Substance Painter. And we have this pot. This is the steel pot, and we can export it from our 3D modeling software. For example, in here, I'm using 3ds Max, so I can export it with FBX format and import it to Substance Painter and work on it. But before doing this step, we need to prepare our model for Substance Painter. The first step is check your topology. We need to check the topology and avoid any n-gon on the topology. We should have just polygon and triangle. Okay, so the second step is check your surface normal, and you should avoid from this kind of effect on the surface. So how we can solve this problem? We can use weighted normal modifier or a smooth modifier inside 3ds Max. You can also search for your software, for example, what is the modifier which act like this modifier, weighted normal or smooth. So I'm going to use weighted normals, and it's going to solve our issue. As you can see, it's okay. I'm going to convert it to editable poly. And the third step is to make sure our model sets on 0, 0, 0 coordinates. So these are 3 simple steps that we should and we consider inside our 3D modeling software. And let's talk about the UV, because it's very important. And I'm going to explain about UV inside another software, which is called Rhizome Lab, the perfect solution for UV unwrapping. And you can follow the structure inside your 3D modeling software, for example, 3ds Max or Blender. Nothing too fancy. We are just talking about the best and ideal situation that we should consider for the UV and unwrapping. So let's go for the Rhizome Lab and talk about the UV. Okay, now I'm going to select my model, go to File, Export, Export selected, Save, and in the Export dialog window, you are going to check just smoothing group and turn off all the feature that we have here, and just press OK. Yeah, let's go for the checking the UV and unwrap. Okay, now it's time to talk about the unwrap. And in unwrapping phase, you need to consider a lot of things, but in here, we are not going to cover all the details and how we can unwrap any model. We just need to know some tips about how to pack and how to organize our UV islands inside the UV space. And after that, we go on the Substance Painter and start our texturing process. So the first thing is we have a 0, 1 UV space, as you can see. And the main goal of unwrapping is to create a 2D translate of 3D model. So this is the 3D model, and we are going to create some textures for that. So how we can apply our textures on the 3D model? With UV, we can do that. Okay, so this is a translate from a 3D model inside the 2D world. Okay, and now we need to consider some factors when we are unwrapping and we are creating a translate to have a better translate and make sure everything is all right in texturing process. Okay, so the first thing is try to have clean and a straight UV island as much as possible. Okay, so when you, for example, create unwrap from this section, okay, you have this kind of UV island, and it's better to use a straight tools and make a perfect a straight line, because when you are in texturing part, it could help you a lot. Okay, so this is the first thing that we should consider. And the main goal in UV packing, and the packing, it means we are going to make arrangement of the location of the UV island. Okay, the main goal in UV packing is to fill up all the space in UV space. And if we have something like this is the warning. But it's okay for this project because our asset is so small and we are not in a project. Actually, we don't have any limitation on texture size or anything else, and we can do this kind of packing. It's okay for us, but we can fill up the space with just breaking this big UV island to a smaller part. Okay, like this. Yeah, this is the better version. But the main problem is when you are breaking up the UV island, you are just creating a seam. And the seam inside texturing, it means you are going to disconnect the texture that you are using here from here. And it's not a good. Okay, so let's create a new project inside Substance Painter. So for doing that, we can go to File and use New. Okay, and in here, we can select a template that we are going to use inside Substance Painter. And 99% we use ASM, or Adobe Standard Material, as a default template. But when you want to, for example, export the texture at the end for example, Blender, you can use Blender template. Or for example, if you are going to export to Unreal Engine, you can use Unreal Engine template. But we are going to use ASM PBR metallic roughness for 99% of the project. And you can export for any software at the end when you want to export the textures. Okay, so this is the template. I'm going to select PBR metallic roughness. And in here, we can load our 3D model. Okay, so let's go press on select. And I just need to select my FX file and press on open. So this is the path that 3D model is loading from. And that's it. So we have a section which is called project setting. We can set a document resolution for texture set in beginning of the project. For example, I'm starting with 1K, but don't worry, you can change this option any time that you want during the project, or even at the end when you decide to export. Okay, so the other matter that's very important is normal map format. I strongly suggest you to use DirectX as a default. And if you are using a specific template, for example, you're using Blender, the setting is going to be changed, depends on the template. Okay, so don't worry about that. But I strongly suggest you to use DirectX inside Substance Painter. And whenever you want to export the texture from Substance Painter, you can change the normal format. Very easy. It's not a big deal at all. Okay, let's go for the UV tile. If I want to explain the UV tile for you, for this model, we put all the UV island on one UV space, right? And we explain that if we have a complex model, for example, for bitmap, we have 3 different texture set. Okay, so each texture set has different UV island. Okay, the texture set and separate UV island and UV space. It's an old-fashioned way to texture in Substance Painter. Okay. In modern workflow, you can put all the UV space beside each other and use UDIMs inside Substance Painter with UV tile workflow. And you can paint on all UV island and all UV spaces inside one texture set, and you can manage your work very easy and fast and work on big and high quality assets in Substance Painter. So this is not our feature right now. We are not going to use that. It's okay, we can skip that. But I want to give you an idea what is the UV tile. And maybe in one project we decide to use that. I don't know. Let's go for the project and we can decide over there. And let's go for the import settings. For the import settings, we don't have any camera inside our FX file, so we just skip that. The next option in the new project window is auto unwrap. It's very powerful, and we are going to use that when we don't have any UV and unwrap for our model. But for this model, we have UV, so we can skip that. And the rest of the option here, they are not useful for us. So I'm going to press OK and open the new project in Substance Painter. Okay, now it's time to set the setting for display and the viewport. So for the first setting, I'm going to display setting and change environment map to something like Tomoko Studio. Okay, and let's increase the exposure to 1, and we can play with the environment opacity. Let's go for the tune mapping function and change it to aces. And now I'm going to change the focal length to something like 60. Okay, let's increase the opacity. And now I have a very good and clean viewport. Okay, so we have one texture set. As you can see, the size is 1K. We can increase it to 2K. And let's go for the texture set setting. We have base color, height, roughness, metallic, and normal. And now I want to add ambient occlusion channel. Okay. And we don't have any mesh maps. And I'm going to explain you what is the mesh maps and what is the purpose to have mesh maps inside Substance Painter. We just did the setting related to display, and it's okay for now. And let's go for the shader. In the shader setting, there is nothing that I want to enable right now. The default setting is okay. And yeah, let's go for the mesh maps and explain what is the mesh maps exactly.